Very recently, I got rebuked by a good friend of mine. It was my buddy David, David Hammond. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, he sent me this super long voice memo, basically telling me a lot of things about myself that he'd kind of bottled up in terms of how he viewed me, my walk with Jesus. Probably could have worded better. Basically, the point of the voice memo was to call me higher in my walk with God. Like, hey, bro, I think that you could be learning more. You could be a better disciple. You could be practicing your faith more. You could be evangelizing more. You could be doing more overall. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. It pissed me off because I took it as a personal attack. I took it as oh man, you're not good enough. You suck, basically. What the hell's wrong with you? You're not a real Christian. You're lukewarm. That's how I took it. I was very emotional about it. This kind of caused a break in our relationship, at least temporarily, where I was like, oh man, this guy thinks he's better than me. This guy thinks he knows way more than me, and he's not on my side. He doesn't respect me. I basically allowed Satan into my mind to break us apart. And I was getting messages from people like, hey, are you still doing the podcast? Are you still friends with David? What's going on? Yeah, I didn't take it very well. Not that I hated David or had any beef with him or any real issues. It's hey man, this guy probably doesn't have my best interest in mind. I'm just gonna at least take some time away from him, just kind of cut it off for now. Hindsight is 2020 was wrong. I handled it the wrong way. And it wasn't until recently, we both ended up at a wedding together where we were able to talk it out like men. And, he helped me to understand his perspective a little bit better. And for anybody who's watching this video who has dealt with conflict like this or had something come up that was not handled in the best way, you'll probably get a lot out of this video. Yeah, I think he could have done things better on his side in terms of communication. Sending a voice memo is probably not the best way to handle any conflict or any deeper conversations, but at the same time, as a man, you need to be able to say what needs to be said. Also, being on the receiving end of that, you need to be able to take criticism and not get butthurt and not be a effeminate baby about it and just, run from a rebuke, because that's what I did. It didn't bear any good fruit. It just caused a schism in me and David's relationship, and could have ended really badly, where we're not going to do the podcast anymore. We're not going to do anything, and we're not going to be friends, and it will always be awkward if we saw each other in person. I didn't want that to happen. I learned a lot from that experience, and I think the point that I'm trying to make in this video is you have to be able to take criticism as a Christian man, especially from people who you look up to, or people who are your mentor, or a spiritual father for you. And most importantly, if you're on the giving end of the deal, if you're in that position of being a leader towards somebody else, you have to be okay with offending them. You have to be okay with telling them the truth in love and calling them higher in their walk with God, and also prefacing it well, hey man, this is probably going to offend you. This is probably going to, ruffle your feathers. Maybe your ego, your pride may start to flare up, because the things that I'm going to tell you could easily be offensive. They could easily piss you off. But I'm telling you the truth because I really do care about you, man. I want what's best for you. I want to call you higher in your walk with God, because that's exactly what Jesus did. I think there's a Bible verse. I literally made a video about this very recently, an Instagram reel, talking about how it is a sin to be offended, especially if somebody's rebuking you and there's truth to it. You can't be a soy boy and just get mad and say, oh man, I'm not going to be friends with this guy anymore. That's not the way to handle that kind of situation. And you have to be able to look objectively at if somebody is rebuking you or calling you higher in your walk with God. Is there truth to what they're saying? Is there validity to what they're saying? Are they right? Because oftentimes we get pissed off or we get offended whenever somebody calls us out for something that deep down is true. I remember so many times whenever I was very overweight, I was very fat, and I didn't want people to really figure that out. I didn't want them to find out that I was overweight somehow. I would wear super baggy clothes, and I would, always try and, pose in my pictures to where I didn't look that fat. I would edit my pictures, way back then, to kind of suck in the fat. And every single time somebody would call me out for being overweight or call me fat A or make fun of me, I would get super offended. The reason why I was getting offended was because I knew deep down it was true, but I didn't want people to know that it was the truth. And it was the exact same way with Dave calling me higher in my walk with God. I remember many times going on to the podcast, and especially whenever it got more theological, or it was more about like ideologies or why this religion is wrong or that religion is wrong, or like a lot of the things that he had really studied up on when it came to apologetics. I was very weak in those areas. Like I didn't really know, especially everything that he knew. I had very surface level understandings of the scriptures and Bible memory. Like I didn't have all the verses memorized. I didn't really study to show myself reproved like the Bible says. And I knew deep down that I could have been doing more, but I was kind of like in this period of coping, like,
hey bro, like I got all this work and all these sales calls to take, and I got my fitness, I got all these things in the way of me being able to really study and really prepare for this. I'm sorry, man, like maybe over time I'll just learn.
And I would just cope and make up a bunch of excuses instead of taking responsibility and making the time to be able to study the Bible. And he had a great point. He's like, hey bro, like I understand we all got busy schedules, we all have things going on, but like if this really is a priority for you, you're gonna have to make time for it. And you gotta show initiative. You gotta, if you really want help in learning certain topics or understanding certain ideologies or being able to defend the faith in certain ways, you gotta be able to tell me, right? You can't just count on me to pull you aside and say, hey, this is exactly what you need to study, this is exactly what you need to do. Hey, we're gonna go street preach here. Are you gonna come? Like you gotta be able to take initiative in your faith. You can't just sit around and hope people just figure things out or tell you exactly what you need to do, because they have their own busy schedules. They have their own stuff going on. You got to take responsibility, especially as a disciple, especially as a follower of Christ, because nobody's going to make you do anything. Your actions speak louder than words. I can say that I want to know the Bible. I can say that I want to be able to defend the faith and go out and street preach and be a disciple maker. But if I don't make time for it and take decisive action to be able to make it happen, then I am a clown. I'm a hypocrite, right? And I'm massively coping. There's a lot of people watching this video who are probably in a very similar situation where they've been lying and rationalizing and making up a bunch of excuses as to why they can't study the Bible more or make time to read their Bible or make time to learn apologetics, exactly like me. I got too much work. I got this girlfriend. I got these responsibilities in my life that are going to get in the way and hinder me from being able to do that. Maybe in the future I'll figure it out. Maybe in the future I'll learn. It's just a bunch of BS. We just lie to ourselves to stay comfortable. If you really boil it down to it, that's exactly what it is. It's staying in your comfort zone. I don't want to get uncomfortable. I don't want to put in the time. I don't want to sacrifice, right? I just want to screw around. I want to externalize. And that is no way to live as a disciple of Christ. This video is not to condemn you. It's not to make you feel bad about yourself. It is to call you higher, exactly like what David was trying to do for me. And you have to humble yourself. The Bible tells us that in order for us to be exalted, we must first humble ourselves. You can't be full of pride and ego and get angry and lash out at people whenever they're trying to help you. You have to be humble. And whenever you realize that you're making mistakes or you're doing things wrong, you have to take responsibility and make serious changes in your life, or you're always going to stay in the same place, which for most of you is not where you want to be. Over the weekend, I was, like I said, at a wedding, and we had this like little bachelor trip type thing where we sat around a fire with all the groomsmen and my buddy who's getting married. And one of the guys brought up a very interesting analogy for discipleship as a Christian. He called it like a triangle of God or something like that. It was basically like a triangle, right? Where at the top of the triangle, right, that is your relationship with God. And he said to rate it out of 1 to 10, like a scale of 1 to 10, right? How close are you in your relationship with God? How much are you prioritizing that? What is that on a scale of 1 to 10? So that's the top of the triangle. Then at the bottom of the triangle, one of the sides is your community, your Christian community. Rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you have a lot of Christian friends? Do you fellowship with believers a lot? What is that out of 10? And then finally, down here is your evangelism, spending time with non-believers, going out and sharing the faith. What is that on a scale of 1 to 10? And it made me really think like, hey, it's great. Like I read the Bible every single day, or at least to the best of my ability. I try and study the Word. I feel like my relationship with God is pretty good. That's probably like a 7 or an 8. I spend a lot of time with other believers. I have a whole house full of roommates that are Christians. I go to church. I do all these things with believers a lot of the time. So that's probably like a 9 or maybe even a 10 out of 10. But whenever it came down to going and sharing the gospel with people or going and spending time with a lot of non-believers, that was probably like non-existent. It was non-existent. It's probably like a 2 or a 3, which is horrible. Really bad. And I think for the longest time, I made up this excuse like, oh, dude, if I spend too much time with non-believers, then they're going to rub off on me and I'll lose my anointing, or I won't be as effective in the kingdom of God. And I was coping once again because The Bible tells us that we are the salt of the earth. Like, we are not Christians just so we can study and gain all this knowledge and all this information and just keep it to ourselves. We're supposed to share it with the world. And to one of David's points, to me, it's like you can make all these videos online, and that's great, and you can share your faith with people all over the world, but nothing beats in-person evangelism and sharing your faith with people and discipling people in person. And that is a big sacrifice in and of itself. And so it was a really transformative weekend for me, just coming to a lot of these revelations in my life and realizing that there is so much like higher of a ceiling of potential that I am not yet reaching in my walk with God. And you're always leveling up if you're doing this properly. If you're sitting stagnant and kind of just staying in the same place and you're not learning anything new, or you're not pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, you're actually regressing. You're actually going backwards, which is a problem. You should always be getting pushed further and further outside of your comfort zone, growing more and more in wisdom and discernment, and passing that on to other people. That's the most important part of this, making disciples, right? Helping other people to grow in their relationship with God, pointing them to Christ, helping them to become better men, helping them to become more godly and more masculine, right? That's the point of this entire channel. But I can't just sit behind this camera and make all these videos and not go out and do it in real life. Hypocritical. This would be a total waste of time. And the last thing I'll leave you with is how important it is to surround yourself with godly men that are already in the position that you want to be in. Surrounding yourself with people that are further along than you are in your walk with Christ. Because if they're the right type of mentor or believer, they're going to call you out, they're going to rebuke you, but out of love. They're going to speak the truth in love, and they're going to call you higher in your walk with God. Don't make the mistake of surrounding yourself with a bunch of people that are at the same level as you or below you, because you're never going to grow. You're always going to think that you're the smartest, you're the wisest, you know the most. And that's a breeding ground for just staying mediocre and staying in a place of complacency. So surround yourself with godly men that will encourage you, will call you higher. And if you don't have that right now, especially in person, and you're looking for that kind of community, I'm going to go ahead and pin in the top link of the description our free Christian Discord. There's over 1,300 guys in there at this point that are all striving to reach in their highest potential as Christian men and sharpening one another. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and join that Discord, top link in the description. I look forward to welcoming you in. Once you join, once again, I'm not making this video to condemn you. I'm making it simply to call you higher and also to hold myself accountable to being the man that I portray myself to be behind the camera. I love you, bro. I hope that this video helps you. I hope that God blesses you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.